Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, or good night, depending on what time you're watching this. It is Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. It is 9:22 in the morning. Okay, this is part 15, Theodore Rex Prologue. Sunday. Roosevelt awoke refreshed early the next morning. I feel bully. He went out onto the porch for some air, unaware that he was being minutely observed through the fence. His tanned skin stretched over his jutting jaw. His teeth gleamed through thick, half-parted lips. His neck too squat for a standing collar, merged with weightlifter shoulders sloping 2 full inches to the tip of his biceps, and his chest pushed apart the lapels of his frock coat. He tugged at his watch chain with short, nervous fingers, shifting his small, square-toe shoes. Here, palpably, was a man of expansive force. When he breathed, the porch seemed to breathe with him. Breakfast, laced as usual by vast infusions of caffeine, served only to stoke Roosevelt's energy. A sheaf of congratulatory telegrams further stimulated him. One read simply, "Viva le Roi." He managed to look solemn on the way to Milbourne House, but his mind was seething with politics. During the memorial service, he caught sight of Herman H. Colsatt, publisher of the Chicago Times-Herald, and whispered urgently, "I want to see you." Colsatt followed him back to the Wilcox mansion. He was shown into the library and found Roosevelt exchanging compliments with a beaky 40-ish professor from Princeton. "Woodrow, you know Colsatt, don't you? Mr. Colsatt, let me introduce you to Woodrow Wilson." The professor bowed out. Roosevelt got straight to the point. "I am going to make 2 changes in my cabinet that I know will please you," he said. Colsatt began to preen. He was a journalist of large influence and even larger vanity, but what he heard next did not please him at all. "I am going to let John Hay go and appoint Elihu Root Secretary of State." Roosevelt said, "I am going to ask Lyman Gage for his resignation." Actually, Roosevelt had no intention of firing either Hay or Gage. On the contrary, he was worried by continued reports that they would resign as soon as he got to Washington. The presence in Buffalo of Colsatt, who knew both men well, came as a godsend. Roosevelt had long since perfected the art of manipulating newspapermen. Colsatt rose to his herring like a trained seal. Colsatt: "John Hay is an old friend of mine. What have you against Lyman Gage?" Roosevelt, teeth snapping: "He always gets his back up against the wall, and I can't get around him." Colsatt: "Don't you know I am responsible for Mr. Gage being in the cabinet? Yesterday, when you were sworn in, you issued a statement that you were going to carry on McKinley's policies, and now you propose to fire his Secretary of State and Secretaries of Treasury?" Roosevelt, after a pause, falsetto: "Old man, I am going to pay you the highest compliment I ever paid anyone in my life. I am going to keep both of them." Compounding the flattery, he invited Colsatt to accompany him to Washington the next day. "The only other friend I have on the train is Elihu Root." Then, casually, "Gage does not like me. I want to wire him to meet you at your hotel on our arrival and tell him he must stay for a while, at least. And I want you to see the Associated Press man and ask him to send a dispatch that when we reach Washington tomorrow night, I am going to ask Hay and Gage to remain in the cabinet." Colsatt busted off, feeling he had managed to sway the rods of power. Had he understood the subtleties of Rooseveltian press relations, he might have seen that he had been tricked into making a personal appeal to Gage. The AP dispatch would also forestall any possible resignation statement by Hay. Neither man could then quit without appearing disloyal to Roosevelt and to the unfinished agenda of William McKinley. Roosevelt's move was well timed. Even now in Washington, the Secretary of State was composing a letter that read like a valedictory. September 15th, 1901. My dear Roosevelt, if the presidency had come to you in any other way, no one would have congratulated you with better heart than I. My sincere affection and esteem for you, my old-time love for your father, would he could have lived to see where you are, would have been deeply gratified. And even from the depths of the sorrow where I sit, with my grief for the president mingled and confused with that for my boy, so that I scarcely know, from hour to hour, the true source of my tears, I do still congratulate you, not only on the opening of an official career, which I know will be glorious, but upon the vast opportunity for useful work which lies before you. With your youth, your ability, your health and strength, the courage God has given you to do right, there are no bounds to the good you can accomplish for your country and the name you will leave in its annals. My official life is at an end. My natural life will not be long extended. And so, in the dawn of what I am sure will be a great and splendid future, I venture to give you the heartfelt benediction of the past. God bless you. Yours faithfully, John Hay. Okay. So that's all for part, let's see, what is it? What part is this? 15. 15. Prologue, Theodore Rex. Thank you for watching.